It is Friday, which means that it's time for Decks and Data, the video every week where we look at the new cards that were released and I share the data on them to help you decide if you should pick them up and add them to your collection. And then also some decks that if you did pick them up, you can achieve your weekend missions with, or you can climb on ladder with, or have fun, or whatever it is that you want to do. Today, we're taking a look at Ezekiel Sims and Chameleon. And then I figured, as this is a new series, we're doing this for the second time only, we can continue to review Spider-Punk, as he will have weekend missions every weekend as a season pass card. We can see if anything's changed with him, if there's any new decks, or just as normal. Now, as part of these videos, we need to give away our season pass from the comment on the previous I Play Your Way video, and that is this Sanguine Shujith PV91332 or something, however you say your name. I appreciate the suggestion for Loki. We spun the wheel. That's how it works. Because, like, man, this is such a silly problem. But every time someone comments, I'm like, man, well, I want to give a season pass to everybody, but I don't have enough. So I have to use a wheel because I want to be fair. Anyway, you won on the wheel. I do appreciate the Heimdall suggestion in here. It's going to be fun. If you would like to win a season pass, just subscribe and then watch the I Play Your Way video that I release every Monday. Basically, people suggest a deck and I play it. It's a lot of fun. And then I ask you to comment something specific, and you can win a season pass in one of these videos. So that's on Monday. Speaking of comments on that, though, we made that video, the pocket one, the most recent one from Monday, for X-Raider, and they have not seen it. And I would like them to. They commented twice asking me to play. I mean, like, I hope they're okay. But if you see this user anywhere, or you know who this is, or if this is you, you should go watch the latest I Play Your Way video from, a few days ago on Monday. It was your deck. You asked so nicely twice, and I played it. So thanks for the suggestion. But the rest of you are here for the data and decks about Ezekiel Sims. So let's get started with him. He's not very popular. People don't really like him. His popularity rate is only at 0.5%, which is puny. Again, this is through Untapped, but still, which is also interesting because I've talked about this in every one of these videos that I made, that Untapped is such a narrow percentage. It's such a slim amount of the data for all players who play Marvel Snap. And it leans towards the more competitive side. It leans towards content creators. It leans towards a specific segment in addition to not being the entire segment of the player base. However, the reason that I bring this up and why it's even more interesting for Ezekiel Sims is that this player base who has Untapped and are more likely to have Untapped stats are the type of people who are going to spend their tokens on Ezekiel. They're collection complete people. They're content creators who get the new cards like myself. So it's interesting that in this small group we have, even there he is unpopular. I just think it really is showing how unpopular Ezekiel Sims is. I think he's just not exciting enough for people. It's not necessarily, I personally think, not even the power creep, because he can get to, he's a 2/8 in the right decks. If not more. Because of, he's, 2/8 on himself plus 4 power on Craven and 3 power on Hydra Stomper, right? And 4 power on Batroc, so that's a lot of power that one card is contributing to your overall strategy. But I think that's the complexity creep, if that makes sense. That he's not very exciting, and so people are just kind of bored, they're not excited by it. Anyway, those people have picked him up. They've had just a slightly above average win rate at 53.9% and a cube rate of just 0.22. And that's probably, I also think, because the sad thing is that Ezekiel Sims is a move card. Can you play him outside of move decks? Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to the decks. But he's a move card, right? What else is a move card? Human Torch. And everyone is sick of playing against Human Torch. It's everywhere. So when we get countered playing Ezekiel Sims by a move counter, people are trying to counter the Human Torch move deck that is annoying to play against. So they play Mercury and Shadow King. But we aren't that deck that they're trying to counter, but we are countered by them, and it just shuts us down so much. So that's why I imagine his cube rate isn't very high, is because you can get shut down pretty quickly. Anyway, so that's what the data shows us. But what do I think about the card? If you haven't watched one of my videos or read my Reddit post or been in my Discord, I love Ezekiel. I picked him up in the pack, spent my tokens on him. In my seasonal reaction video, I rated him 4 spiders out of 5. I still think he is a 4. I think I was dead on, that in the right decks, he's a good card. I have the potential of putting him at a 5 spider card when people stop countering Human Torch so much. And I think that also in this combo-centric meta, he is not the snazziest thing. And so there's a challenge there that he's competing against really, really tall decks. And so as things change in the meta, I think that this card can just keep getting better. And I want to say this with the utmost respect, that I think for most people he's like a 3. But I'm giving him a 4, maybe a 5, because he just so perfectly matches the way that I play. At least like a deck that I really am interested in the mass move deck that I've talked about that a lot. And so I'm like it's tough to suggest because I don't want, like, I want to tell you how high I am on Ezekiel and how much I'm enjoying him, but I don't want that to influence people to go get him and then not like him or feel like they wasted their tokens because he's not the same play style that they're interested in. And like he feels he's very niche in his application, and he feels very niche in like almost that he was a card for me, if that makes sense. But I'm really, really enjoying him. What do you all think of him, though? Because you also have the option to vote. I forgot to do this last week. Every week, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember, Thursday, I schedule these polls, which are really fun. And I try to come up with these puns. No one's ever talked about the puns, but I think that they're good. I try so hard to come up with these witty votes. Anyway, and then you can vote on what you think about Ezekiel Sims. And as can be expected, most people didn't get him, right? We've got 377 votes, and 70% of them, basically, 69. Nice. Just like skipped him, which is fine. And then the people that did get him are like, he's fine, So, like I said, probably a 3 for most people, or even worse than that. Not worse, but just a skip for most people. So if you did get him, or you're still trying to decide, so if you did get him, let's talk about the decks here. Or if you're still trying to decide, before I show you the first deck, what I will say is that it only takes one good deck for the card to be worth it. One good deck that you enjoy playing for the card to be your new favorite, if that makes sense. Like for a card to be worth your tokens, for something that you want to spend on and enjoy playing, that card doesn't need to be the most meta thing ever. It also doesn't need a ton of decks. It just needs one deck that you really, really enjoy. So keep that in mind as we look at these decks. Starting with the first one, we'll go through the decks that just have stats on Untapped, and then I'll share my decks as they're a smaller sample size. Starting with this one that is like the highest cube rate, win rate one, I think this is the auto deck. So I always just kind of like seeing what happens on the first day the card's released, just like an auto deck for Ezekiel Sims. And it was very similar to this, which I think is super interesting. And kind of cool. The one thing is that, like, if Misery was still a 9 power, that would be the only way that we could trigger Ezekiel a third time when he's at 8 power and we want him to go to 10. But with Galacta and with Mr. Fantastic, you can get some of these cards. You could get a Miles Morales over that 8 power hump to trigger Ezekiel to go to 10 power, which would be kind of cool. So I haven't yet to play this deck. It looks super interesting. It's like not the weird thing is that it's not, I don't even know what to call it, because it's not a Victoria Hand deck. It's not a mill deck. It's not a move deck. It's just kind of a good cards with a little bit of control-ish weirdness. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I wish I would have seen this sooner and tried it. I think that the inclusion of Mr. Fantastic is also super interesting. One, discounts are nice. Power buffs are nice. Like I mentioned, I was playing one deck with Ezekiel as I've been experimenting with Viv Vision. And just like those buffs on your card make it easier to get Ezekiel to proc, right? It can also make it harder if Ezekiel's in your hand getting those buffs. But so I like this inclusion. You could potentially put a Viv Vision in Mr. Fantastic spots or something. But I like this idea of buffs that Mr. Fantastic and Galacta are providing. Really interesting deck that I think is, doesn't have in a lot of games, but I think is cool. And then we have the other deck that I think a lot of people were going to try is Searcher, of just like, okay, yeah, sure, he may be a move card, but like, let's not get pigeonholed into the text of this card and realize that like what he really cares about is power, and that him moving around is just kind of an extra thing. And so let's play him in like this good deck in place of Lizard, right? And so I actually think that in most situations he's going to be more power than Lizard. And then the nice thing is that Lizard isn't like, there's one less card that you have to worry about being your target for Sauron or Zero. I can tell that I have won many games where my opponent didn't get their Lizard Sauroned, and I decreased the power of their Lizard and I won. So I think it's cool. I think that like, if I were into playing this type of deck, not like there's nothing wrong with this type of deck. I just not my personal taste. Like if you like playing this deck, I think that Ezekiel is a good card in this deck. Like he makes a ton of sense to include in this type of list, because it's just proc him up over and over. Get him to 10 power. If you somehow align it perfectly, you can get him to 12 power if you're able to play your Red Skull on him, but you can easily get him to 10 with your Scar, which is just crazy. So I think it makes sense in this list, and like Sauron has been in a pretty decent spot lately, so it's a good deck to play. And then we have this move deck that I'm really calling move because we have Hercules and Heimdall. I think this is Regis's deck. Regis's was really, really close to this. I know he had Hercules and Heimdall. I personally don't think, and you can see here in the cube rate and even the win rate, that this type of move with Hercules and Heimdall is the right move. That it's just a little bit too chaotic. Which, when you get your shield and Batroc flinging to Hercules, and then Hercules is moving again, like your Hydra Stomper is loving that. Also, one move from Heimdall with Hydra Stomper, and Hydra Stomper goes to like a 15 power. So there's a little, there's synergy here, but I don't think it's as controlled or controllable as you would need for a deck to be really, really good in the meta right now. But there is the data for it. Again, all of these decks are in the description that you can copy and paste. If I have a video on one of the decks that I've played, there'll be that included in as well. And if you use one of the deck codes, please leave a like. It actually takes more work to compile them than you would think. So a like helps the video perform. I appreciate you watching. So then we have the other deck that a lot of people suggested they were going to do is they took a Scream deck. I think this is actually my Scream deck that I made a video about. And they said they put it in for Sam Wilson Captain America, but Sam Wilson Captain America is here. So I don't know what was taken out. But it also makes sense in the Scream deck because similar things. You have these tempo cards that you want to play. You have Craven, you have Arrow, you have Stegron, you have Miles, you have Polaris, you have Hydra Stomper, you have Silk. All these cards can trigger Ezekiel Sims, and it just makes a lot of sense. Very, very few games, but insane cube and win rate with it. So I think it makes a lot of sense to include Ezekiel in Scream. Caveat with that. You can have a really great Scream deck without Ezekiel. So, if you're enjoying playing Scream and you're like, oh, for me to have the best Scream deck, I got to get Ezekiel. Not at all. Your Scream deck's fine. Don't buy Ezekiel out of urgency that your Scream deck isn't good. But if you're like, hey, I really like Scream, I'd like to have another toy to potentially include my Scream deck, then Ezekiel would make sense in that realm. So moving on to the decks that I am playing, that I have really been enjoying. I made a video about this one. I made a Reddit post. I made a full-on deck guide in my Discord, which if you're interested, you can join the Discord. I made written deck guides, and other people in the community have too. For actually another deck in this video. There's another deck guide in our Discord. I'll tell you which one when we get to it. But I love this deck. Has me putting Ezekiel at a 5-star card. I love this deck. I love Ezekiel as a card in this deck. I have played a lot of games with it. I've climbed up into I'm currently at rank 700 post Infinite, and I just keep. Wow! It is like a full-time job to try and stay higher up on the ladder post Infinite. My goodness! But I'm just trying to see how far I can end the season. Anyway, I'm rambling. I love this deck. I have played it a ton. And in particular, I just want to point out here, I should have hovered over it. In fact, let me just go do that real quick. If I go to my deck and I go Ezekiel, this is an average cube rate of 0.95, almost a full cube as an average cube rate for 75 games. I will say that there are some decks so we go back over here. This one has, an average cube rate of 1.13, so technically it's higher, but it's only had 24 games. Once you start getting over 50 games or getting close to 100 games, that cube rate generally drops down. Now, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm saying I really feel like one of the reasons that this deck in particular is so good, and I feel like I've really mastered it, is one, I've mastered it. That really helps you play. And I'm also getting paired up against people who are playing very similar things, so I'm getting familiar. There's a context of me as a player that's helping me perform really well. The other nice thing is that I just think people see me playing Ezekiel and they just think, man, this card's not very good. I can beat it. And so there's an overconfidence. The other reason is Hellion and Craven. These two have been phenomenal. Hellion, someone commented this. I should pull it up, but I'm in a hurry. Actually, sadly, I have a funeral to go to. Wow, I'm just going off on tangents. Hellion he's like the MVP. He's really as I experimented, and it took me a while to find this combo of cards, he was the one who really tied it all together. because you kind of have your Hydra Stomper plus some other good cards, high rate cards, Silk, Ezekiel, Batroc, maybe a Spider-Punk, a Miles, maybe a Sam. Like, you have them in one location, right? Spider-Punk plus high value cards in one location to win. And then you have Craven and Hellion in another, plus the cards you moved into that location as a second location that you're winning, right? And so it's like those two have been the towers of power. Hydra plus high rate cards, and then Craven plus a lot of cards moved in, and like you're getting Cravens to like 15 power, and then your Hydra Stompers at 13 power. I'm really, really enjoying this deck. The reason that I feel like the cube rate has been so high is just that like people perceive that I'm not in control of this deck. People perceive that I don't know where Silk's going to end up, that I don't know where Ezekiel's going to end up, where I know exactly where they're going to end up because I've played this deck so much, and I just know, like and there's like that one-sided information of like, I can move the shield, I can fill up locations, so I know where Silk's going to go, I know where Ezekiel's going to go, I can get him to proc twice in one turn because I know where he's going to go because one location's full, so he's only got 2 to bounce between. Anyway, I'm talking about this deck a lot. I just have been playing a lot of games with it, and I naturally really love it. I've had a lot of fun with this deck. So if like you look at this play style, or you watch the video and see him play it, and you're like, yeah, I would like to play that, then I think Ezekiel would be worth it. He is really taking this deck to a fun spot. The other deck that I've been trying to play him in to dramatically less success, and granted, I've only played, 9 games, I haven't even made it to 10, is like the silky smooth style deck, but bringing back Ezekiel Sims. And let me tell you, it has been hard. I've tried it with Silk, and she did not feel good, so it's kind of sad that like the silky smooth deck won't even include Silk. Okay, I have a negative win rate, but a positive cube rate, so something's going good. Yeah, I think it's similar to what I just said, that people see Ezekiel and they get overconfident and they snap, and then I'm like, well, I kind of know what I'm doing. Boo-hoo for you type of thing. But the reason that I feel like the deck's win rate is so poor is that it feels like I'm waiting on Mercury and Cosmic Ghost Rider to shut down my opponent. And if Mercury and Cosmic Ghost Rider can't shut down my opponent, I lose, if that makes sense. If I get in a matchup where Mercury and Cosmic Ghost Rider are going to contribute to shutting down my opponent, then I can win. Like, it feels very, very reliant on my tech cards having the right matchup, which is not a deck that I like and isn't one that can perform, because when you don't get matched up against that, you're not, like, this deck... I don't know. It feels like when you get the combo, when you're getting like Kitty Pryde and Angela into Ezekiel into Spider-Punk and Elsa Bloodstone into Galactic, like, and you have Superior Spider-Man down and you're getting extra energy, and then you're able to finish with like Gilgamesh and Kitty Pryde and one other card. Like, then things are really singing and it's a lot of fun. But that very, very rarely happens, and it's a house of cards. So I maybe somebody can crack it. I think Ezekiel Sims does make sense in this silky smooth style deck of like playing cards into location and having to move out, but like better than Silk, because you can control him and he can stick. He can stay there. I don't know. It's just like, it's a bummer that I can't. I've like, and so this is one deck, but I've tried, I don't know, 3 or 4 different versions of this, and like nothing's getting there. This is the only one that I have a positive cube rate with. Anyway, that was enough rambling about that. It's so close, but I'm trying to like give this appropriate coverage, because again, somebody in my comments that I should remember their name asked me saying, should I get Ezekiel? In fact, on the poll, they asked, should I get Ezekiel? I like playing silky smooth decks. And so I was like, well, I'm going to figure it out for that person. And I haven't the way that I want to. Maybe somebody has, but in all the decks I could find online, nobody else has. It looks like nobody's really trying, sadly. So, with all of that rambling out of the way, is Ezekiel worth it? Do you like the deck? Like, that's kind of up to you. It's really hard to say, because I love him. I think he's one of the funnest cards to be released. He's been a huge surprise for me how much I love this card. But if you will, depends on if you like the decks that he's in, right? Do you like this Hydra Stomper deck? Do you like, this Sauron Surters type deck? If so, then yeah, he might be worth it. So it's hard to say. So moving on to the next card, Chameleon. He's a Series 4 card. As you can see, much more popular, right? He's a whole % more popular than Ezekiel Sims. His win rate is much lower, and his cube rate is much lower. He's got barely a positive cube rate, but a negative win rate, which will kind of give you a precursor to what I think about the card. Again, he's a Series 4 card. So my rating of him, I did purchase him in the Series 4 seasonal pack. In my seasonal review video, I gave him a 4 out of 5 spider rating. I currently would give him a 2. I have the potential listed down for a 3 that somebody who cares more about the card and is smarter than me might be able to figure out something that's really good. The potential is there. Also, when other cards are released, the same way that Prodigy was released, everyone kind of ignored him. Thought he was just eh. And then suddenly we got these activate end of turn cards, and Prodigy went crazy, right? And now he's annoying. Same thing might happen with Chameleon in the future, or someone might just cook up with him. But in my playstyle, it just was like I was uninterested in playing. Okay, this is such a side note, but I love this. Okay, so look at this O. This is like great graphic design, I think. This is one thing that I think Second Dinner and Marvel Snap gets really well done. Okay, so look at this O. It's shaped like an oblong oval. Has this curve on the half, right? So this idea of Chameleon is like one half the things that he has him at, right? You get the split design. Okay, look at the H, the A, the M, the L, not the E for some reason, and this N. Like half of them follow that same curve. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyway, it's just like a nice little. I love that. Anyway, that why. You are not here to have me talk about the text of the card. You're here to talk about the card itself, which I think is bad, is the summary. What does everyone else think about it? Most people skipped it, right? Similar thing that a little bit, a few less votes than we had on Ezekiel Sims. Close to the same amount of people, but a little bit higher in the victory. Also, this order, like I got the pictures out of order, and it drives me nuts. Anyway, yeah, so most people are skipping him. He's just, which I think is smart. Like when you compare this to other cards coming out next season or the Prowler, it's like, do I want to spend tokens on Chameleon or the Prowler? Absolutely, I want to spend them on the Prowler. So it makes sense that people are skipping him. So what decks is he performing in if you did get him? At least on Untapped. Of the games that have more than 50 games, there's decks that have less than 50 games, but I wouldn't trust those reliably. Of those with 50 or more games, the only one with a positive win rate, which I don't even know if you can consider this positive, it's 50 exactly, and a really low cube rate, is this deck. And I think that the combination of Anti-Venom and Chameleon is really interesting. Like if your Chameleon is free, or your Laufey is free, and you can play Chameleon with Laufey, or Chameleon with Ajax, which that's kind of overkill. Like you're just going to win that location. Like that's an overinvestment because of his location restriction with Chameleon. Anyway, so like that potential, I think, is like the whole reason that he's even included in this deck. Copying a Chameleon with a Diamondback can help you win a location. But I think that you're just making this deck worse. That you just rather have a different 3 cost that you can play immediately that you're not waiting on. Also, how the heck does Chameleon work with Malekith? Probably the same way it does with Supergiant. I have no idea. So yeah, again, I don't think that it's worth playing. I think if you want to play Ajax, play the version without Chameleon. Then we have Surfer, which of course everybody was going to try. Cube rate's a little bit higher, win rate not as much. And it's a Surfer deck with Chameleon. What else do you want to know? I personally would take out Makari. I don't like Makari here. I would put anything else but Makari in here because I don't want Makari messing up my Chameleon location. Like I don't want. I want to be able to control where my cards are. In particular because of Chameleon. Now, if Chameleon is not here, oh yeah, Makari's a great card to include in Surfer. But because of Chameleon and Silver Surfer first steps, I want to be able to position my cards. And so I would take out Makari. But again, this is just like so mediocre. And Silver Surfer is also already having a tough time in our super combo-y meta. You would be way better off putting in a Shadow King or a Mercury instead of Chameleon. So again, you're just making your deck worse by including Chameleon. And then we have, of course, what everybody was going to try, Cerebro. I'm with KM Best on this. You're making your Cerebro deck worse by playing Chameleon, and the stats prove that. So, moving on. What decks have I been playing? I have been trying really hard with 2 different combinations. 1, Chameleon and Victoria Hand, and 2, Chameleon and Infinity Ultron. Like, you can really cope by copying a card, one of Ultron's stones with Chameleon. It's disappointing how disappointing this deck is. I have my stats over here because it's a combination of decks. It's not just these 12 cards you're looking at. I've been trying multiple combos of like not a Victorian Hand deck, but just an Infinity Ultron deck with Chameleon. And then I've been trying a Victorian Hand deck without Infinity Ultron with Chameleon. And then obviously in this situation, what you're seeing is both. And I've played a lot of games and I just keep losing. And like the combo just isn't there. And more than anything, Chameleon has just felt like a distraction. That I want to play my cards on curve. I want to play Victoria Hand and copy her with a Mirage, or I want to like Chameleon is just distracting. He's just preventing me from playing my cards better. I'm like overanalyzing my board space. I'm not just putting like I'm having to be super like stuck in my plan that I need to play my cards here so that on a final turn I can put Chameleon and Victoria Hand together, which means I can't be as responsive to what my opponent does, and it's disappointing how bad it is. And I could be building the deck wrong, but I looked into it in the data and no one else has found anything with Victoria Hand and Chameleon. I was really excited to make a video about Victoria Hand because it's been a while since I made a video for her, and it just is really, really underperformed. So do I think that Chameleon is worth it? No. Short answer. I don't think he's worth it. And in that potential that, way back here, I said he could be a 3-spider potential. Even in the future, if the meta changes or someone comes up with some cool combo, it's still just going to be and you'd be better off saving your tokens for something better. So, no, I don't think Chameleon's worth it. So let's wrap up this video. It's probably been a little bit longer than I wanted by reviewing Spider-Punk and see if anything's changed. His popularity has gone up. His win rate, I have the stats here from last week. His win rate has gone down, and his cube rate has gone down dramatically. And I think that's just because people are sick of him, and so they're countering him more and more. We see a lot more Mercury and Shadow Kings now. So, are there any other decks? No, the same thing. Move. Sorry, let me get off the screen. So, are there any other new decks for him? I take a look to. No, not really. It's basically Move and Affliction, but mainly just Move that he's existing in. So, you can continue to play that. But some that I have found that I did not showcase last week is this one, Zorn Drop. Not this exact build, but that other deck guide that I mentioned we have in our Discord, thanks to the incredible Resident Monster in Discord. They wrote, like, genuinely an exceptional deck guide. It really taught me a lot about deck building. Genuinely a lot. So I appreciate them, contributing to the Discord in that way. So if you want, you can join the Discord. It's in the description. Here's a version of Zorn Drop that includes Spider-Punk. It's a fun deck to play. The deck that I've been playing with Spider-Punk that I've not been able to show you yet is this Topastic deck. That little 3 in the title will give you a hint at the video coming later. But like, I'm playing Topaz and having a great time. It's been really, really fun. I enjoy this deck. It was kind of my deck that I was playing in preparation for Ezekiel Sims, even though I would never play Ezekiel Sims. It just doesn't make sense. But I love this deck. I'm obviously becoming a huge fan of Hydra Stomper and Rogue together, as you can see in the decks that I've been building. But this is just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing this one. And then we have this deck that I made a video about, or talking about Websling was an underrated card that Spider-Punk is just included in. I have played this deck so much. It is the deck that I climbed into the top, top 900 post-infinite ladder. Was with this deck. First time I ever achieved that. It's been a lot of fun. I love playing this deck. The cube rate has really tanked the last few days because I got overconfident and lost a bunch of 8 cubers. My hubris was getting to me. So it's been a lot of fun. However, if you want to play this, I'd probably take out Iron Patriot. I can't remember if it was in a comment or on a Reddit post. It was a comment on YouTube or there, but they said that they took out Iron Patriot for Medusa as just like another good, high value card, another good copy for Nico. I put in Grandmaster in my version when I took out Iron Patriot. So these stats you're seeing are combined with the version with Iron Patriot and the version with Grandmaster. But loving the deck. Anyway, that is how they're performing. Again, the description will be full of things that you can click. You can click on links to the deck to paste into your game. You can click on videos of me playing the decks if they exist. You can click on the Discord link. You can support the channel by becoming a member, which tomorrow we'll have our members-only live stream, Legends Lounge Live. That's actually harder to say than I thought. Which is a lot of fun. We just hang out. I hang out with the members. It's like a fun, tight little group. Anyway, there's the decks. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the comments. It means a lot to me. If you made it to the end, leave a pineapple emoji.